Hey guys, it's Dan. So in this video I wanted to talk to you about just dealing with overwhelm and dealing with stuff that's going on in your life that sometimes feels a little bit difficult to handle. So what can often happen in a situation like this is that something happens external to your normal life, but it has an impact on you and you end up not being able to do the things that you were once able to do, you know, like concentrate at work or concentrate on your family or just do anything but think of this bad thing that's happened. So and stuff can happen to all of us, can't it? I know it's happened to me a number of times and it will happen to me again at some point. And it's just, you know, it's just one of those things. It's just part of business. If it's a business thing, it's part of life. If it's a life and death thing, we put our cat down after a couple of weeks of her having really bad kidney problems, and it was really sad, you know, and you're upset, and I'm in tears, and the vet's in tears, and everyone's crying, and it's just really not nice. How do you cope with stuff like that? And it could even be like death of a human as well, although that's a little bit more deeper, and it's not something I want to cover today necessarily. But you know, what are you going to do? What can you do to keep moving forward? Because at the end of the day, you still need to pay your bills. You still need to be able to function so that your family and your friends and you can function, right? So you still have to have that commitment, you know. So what can you do? Okay, this is what I do. I allocate time to feel whatever the feeling is that I need to feel. So if I'm feeling anxious, I'll allocate that time to feeling anxious. If I'm feeling sad, I'll allocate time to feel sad. And I'll feel sad, you know, I'll put the sad songs on, you know, I'll pick a time, 9 p.m. till 10 p.m, leave me alone, go into my man cave. I haven't got a man cave, I've got a gym. But it's the same thing. Oh, a man cave for a man is like watching Netflix on his phone with his headphones on. Do you know what I mean? We don't have man caves as such, we just take ourselves away. It is our modern day equivalent of staring into the fire. And you may have seen that joke on Facebook of a woman, and she's really sad, and her husband's not talking to her, and she thinks he's having an affair. He thinks he doesn't love her. She's put on a few pounds, and she thinks that's what it is. And maybe he's seen someone else. Maybe he's got a really big issue at work, or maybe he's got a really bad disease, and he's not got long to live. And she's going through all this different stuff. And then there's a picture of a man who's just sat there, and he's just like, bike's not working, don't know why. And literally, that's it. Do you know what I mean? And men go very introspective in terms of when we have problems. We close the door, we want to be on our own, we retreat into something that's nice and comfortable for us. So like Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica are mine. You know, if I need to retreat back into my shell, I go watch an old episode. These episodes are 20, 30 years old now, or not the modern day Battlestars, they're just 10 years old. But it's like putting on a really comfy jumper for a man, is that. It's like just going back, or you might go watch 1996 NBA Finals with Michael Jordan, the flu game. We might go watch that, because we've seen it a million times and we love it. We know what happens, we know who wins, but it's just, it takes us back to something that's familiar. And so this is also something that you can do, is you can take yourself back to something that's familiar, something that you can go watch or you can go listen to. I've got a couple of things that I listen to. Marillion is one, like really old school stuff, like late 80s stuff, right? Like really old school. That's over 30 years old now. That's amazing, right? So, but really old school stuff. So just stuff that takes me back to a place, a time before all these things that are making me feel whatever feelings I'm feeling, before all that happened. And so that's a nice way of dealing with it as well. If you need to go back and be introspective, you can go watch an old film, like old Star Wars films, not the crap ones, obviously. Or, you know, think of something that you would go watch, like Star Trek, Wrath of Khan. I've seen that film like a billion times. But it's a great little film, because I can go watch it, I know what happens, and I'm safe in that environment, and my unconscious mind can work its way out of a problem, right? So that's why we do it, because time's a great healer. The difficulty for most people is getting through that time. So let's talk about some of the bad things that you can do. Now, not necessarily bad, by the way. Anything that gets you through is something that gets you through, and that's great, right? But let's talk about the things that aren't aren't helpful or aren't productive. Going to bed is one of them, and this used to be mine. I would just go to bed and I really just wanted to sleep, like for a year or 2 or 10, and I would be wishing it away. Do you know what I mean? And that's really not a great way of building a future. I mean, maybe at the time I didn't want a future, maybe, but it's a great way to deal with anxiety and overcoming that kind of thing. It's just going to bed and sleeping it away, you know. But it's not productive. It's not going to help you in 10 years' time build your portfolio, build your wealth, build your lifestyle goals and dreams. So that's one. The other one, obviously, is drink and drugs. You know, anything to excess, basically. Going to bed to excess and sleeping to excess. Going to the gym, I mean, you know, on one hand, how can that be bad for you, on one hand? Do you know what I mean? But you can overdo it, like you can overdo anything. If you like sweets and you over-excess in that, if you love, I don't know, going to the gym and you over-excess at that, it can have some long-term negative effects as well. So anything with balance. You know, if you go back and just watch every Star Trek film, every Battlestar Galactica episode, every Star Wars, Star Trek thing, you know, that's bad, right? So going to these extremes is not going to help you either. So doing these little things, but make a list. So having an extra hour or an afternoon nap, or going to bed early or getting up slightly later, that would work, right? Choosing 3 or 4 films to watch through the week, that would do. Going to the gym 3 or 4 times through the week. Listening to a Marillion album, you know, just the Marillion album. Sitting there like you used to do when you were a kid. I know you did this. You'd sit there with the album sleeve, right, and you'd read the words, or off a cassette. Do you remember cassettes when we used to get the words? And we don't get that anymore now. We have to make them up or look at lyrics.com. But anything that carries you to extremes or excess is not really going to be good for you. Like, some people throw themselves into work, and you know, you could say on one hand, well, that's brilliant because then at least the money's coming in. But really, they're not making the work because of the money. They're not making money, if you see what I mean. They're just there to, you know, cover themselves mentally. So that's not, I think it's kind of conducive, but anything to extreme isn't conducive, right? So going into work and cracking down into work can be a good thing, but not if you go to extremes and you do it to an excess. So a combination of all these different things is exactly what you need. Now, I'm looking at my calendar right now, not right now, I'm driving, but I've been looking at my calendar and looking at all of these things. Like, I'm working out twice a day right now, not because I'm stressed and anxious and that kind of thing, but I've got a fat tummy, so I want to get rid of it. And I've literally just added a 3rd workout, which I'm going to start tomorrow, so I have to rearrange it all. So I do cardio in the morning, I was doing weights in the afternoon, but I've just added an hour shooting practice of basketball every day, well, three days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I now have to rearrange everything, but in amongst all that working out is me working and me putting in family time. Now, I'm the kind of guy, I can't just sit and do one thing for 8 hours, not unless I really love it. Like, I could play basketball for all day, 10 hours, and I've played 10 hours. You know, gone out to the outdoor court, we played outdoors. You know, when you've been playing so long, it's when you have white crusty salt on your head, and it's disgusting, right? But you've been playing 8 hours. I've done that kind of thing before. But I'm the kind of guy that has to split stuff up, not every 5 minutes, but an hour, 2 hours here, that's my limit, and then I go do something else. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting stuff in action, letting it go, then going on to the next thing, setting that off in action, letting that go, then moving on to the 3rd thing, setting that off in action. And as I go through my day, and when I go back to work, and I've got an hour, I can review the thing that I originally set off and see how that's gone, and then adapt what needs to be done, speak to the people that I've got working for me, because I've got a great team these days, both on property and on business. You know, we've got 2 VAs, we've got a video editing guy, we've got 3 handymen in the UK, and a great cleaner who manages them as well to some extent. We've got a great team, so I can set the ball rolling and then come back, see how it's gone, and then adapt it and give instruction, and then off they go again, do what they need to do. This is how you should be growing your business too, instead of you having to be there all day, every day, which doesn't make sense to me. And how can you be efficient 8 hours a day? It's just not going to happen, right? But you can be efficient 1 hour 3 times a day, right? Does that make sense? I can be efficient in my workouts 1 hour 3 times a day, but I can't be efficient on a 3-hour workout. It's just not going to happen for me. So lots of great content in here to give you some ideas that you could perhaps implement for anything that you're going through, like anxiety or stress or overwhelm or too much business stuff going on, or you find yourself working in business but your relationships aren't working. Allocate an hour to your relationships every day. Half an hour every day, an hour every 3 days, whatever it needs to be, just to get that back on track. The problem is most people don't do that. They just show up without a plan, right? Both in their relationships and their business. Instead, when I show up in my business for that 1 hour that I've got, I'm very, very efficient in that 1 hour, and it's like 2 hours work. The old joke, how many people work here? About half of them. Because really, how many people are working? You walk into a business, there's 100 people. How many of them are working 100% all day, every day? It's like none of them, right? You're not even doing it. So why would they be doing it? So look, lots of really good information in this one. I hope it's something that you can utilise and that you can take with you. If you do get stuck, just drop me a line. Happy to help in some way. We can do a podcast about it, we'll do a video about it, mentioning no names of course, but we're always here to help, and I hope that's useful for you. So we'll speak to you in the next video. My name's Latto.